Hello, everyone. My name is CJ, and welcome to the Curiosity Gap podcast. Today, we're interviewing Mary Timm. She has a psychology degree and she works in an AI coaching business. She uses AI every day to handle back end stuff so that way coaches can be more engaged and fulfill deep personal connection. I hope that you find value from this interview. Let's get into it. Well, thank you for taking some time out of your day to get together and go through this interview. And so I just kind of wanted to start, have you introduce yourself, kind of talk about what you do, and obviously we're talking about AI today. So kind of how are you involved in AI and how you got here?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mary Timm. I work as a integrator for a coaching company for entrepreneurs, and my journey with AI kind of happened when I graduated in 2022, right as the kind of AI thing was all happening and everybody was freaking out and didn't know what it was. So I chose to go get my MBA with a focus in applied AI within companies. And it was the first cohort of that program. And I really enjoyed it and have used everything I learned within it every day since. And I think within the AI sphere, one of the things that I like to specialize in is how it integrates with people. So, how we can make sure that we utilize AI to take away the tasks that are mundane, that are repeatable, unnecessary, so that we can focus on the things that are utterly irreplaceable, which is the human things, those human qualities that only a person can really bring to an organization, a project, and amplify those because we've removed what's mundane.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And from our last conversation, we had talked about how you had originally gotten a psychology degree in your undergrad. And
Yes.
so kind of you talked about how AI and people work together a lot. So could you just speak a little bit on your psychology degree? You know, what led you to do psychology in the first place, and uh, how did you see how AI and psychology work together?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I went into psychology because my parents were entrepreneurs, very familiar with business, and they had told me if I wanted to go into business, I could get any degree but a business degree. And I chose psychology and sociology because I felt like true business is understanding people. And if you can understand people, you can really go into any industry and do anything. And I use my degree every single day. There's not a day I walk through life that I don't utilize an understanding of psychology or sociology. And for the difference, psychology is how we are internally operating, and sociology is how we're interacting with others. So both of those things you use everywhere in every industry. And how I saw it come into play with AI is as AI has continued to spread, we're seeing a lot of like panic, um, especially among younger generations, as to what is my value in the world and what am I going to do. And as I've worked in many industries now, in my early career, I've seen that what we can never live without is the human thing. And what people are drawn to is the human thing. And so, in the coaching company that I work with today, there's so many processes that we could automate, but we choose actively not to. So we still pick up the phone and call our members and check in with them and say, hi, we could send a check in text of, take this quick survey, it's all automated. But we found that in this AI world, people want that human connection. And that is psychology, that's sociology. In psychology, we know that, humans need food, water, sleep. If we don't have these three things, we, can't function, can't live. But there's that hidden fourth thing that we talk about, and several studies have actually proved this, and that's connection. Humans cannot actually function and live without connection, and that's why we see loneliness as one of the biggest killers. And so I think as we go forward in the AI space, we have to ask ourselves what should really be automated, and what, if taken away, removes that connection and community piece that leaves humans unhappy.
Right. So you talk a lot about how, choosing between automating something versus going back to the human connection with that. So what does that process look like to decide whether you choose to automate something or whether you keep the human connection?
Yeah. So for us, what we do in our company is we try to automate everything that's a back end process for us. So if we would normally be looking through a large set of data, and we can utilize AI to help us do that. If we, want to record a coaching call with one of our members and have those notes automatically sent to their taken and sent to their coach afterwards so that they could be fully present while in the coaching call because AI is doing the note taking. So that's where AI is automating something that allows you deeper human connection. But any of our back end internal process, we want all of that to be automated because it doesn't really matter necessarily how much time we're spending working because the way that myself and even our owner Chad thinks about it is that all of that extra time saved is more time that we can be spending with members, and that's how we utilize every ounce of time saved is more time with members. So from a customer service piece, if I am communicating something to somebody, I would rather, if it's on a again a smaller scale, if you've got thousands of customers it might be a little different, but if it's possible, when communicating with the customer, everybody likes that human connection piece. Your internal processes, absolutely automate them.
So in in today's day and age, we do a lot of testing with AI, and we there was a very popular test with ChatGPT when it first came out, for example, where people would ask it how many R's are in the word strawberry, and it would get it wrong every time. It would say, "Oh, there's only two," or "There's five," or something like that. And
Mhm,
so we see a lot of these warnings and everything with AI, new tools coming out that say, "Hey, AI can be wrong. Make sure you check it yourself."
mhm.
And so when you're doing data collection or you're doing AI note taking and you want all of this to be summarized, how do you evaluate the authenticity of is all this information that pulled actually accurate? Do you also go through all of it? Because in my mind, that sounds inconvenient if you're passing this on to AI and then you have to go through it all again yourself. So
Yes.
kind of how do you balance with um trusting AI and training it so that it's accurate in the information that it gives you?
Yeah. So we've seen many companies go through this. There are several companies that, articles have come out where they let go of X number of their staff, and then, ended up finding out that AI did the job so incorrectly that now they have to bring in human staff back and it's a, 6-month cleanup process. So that is getting experienced. I would say in terms of note taking, the coach did the call. So the coach did the coaching call. All AI was responsible for doing is taking notes so that they could be fully present. Absolutely, what those notes are used for is to skim before the next coaching call to make sure that they remember what was talked about previously. And there have absolutely been times that they've peaked and AI has gotten a few things wrong. Now, of course, every year, not even every year, I don't even want to say that, every week, sometimes every day, AI is getting better. Especially, Anthropic has done a really good job, specifically in 2026, of iterating and improving at least weekly. So, it's always going to be getting better. But yeah, I mean, humans have to double check. And that's where you get into that kind of ethical or philosophical question of like, how worth it is it if we're having to double check? I would still say that it was worth it because the coach got to be present in the moment with their member. And even a coach taking notes as they're like trying to do two things at once, coach and take notes, they're going to make mistakes. So AI makes mistakes, humans make mistakes, but I think it's finding that harmony of how they work together to make both parties more efficient.
Hmm. Yeah, and you had mentioned with Anthropic specifically and how they are making updates with AI and Claude weekly, even sometimes daily. So, in the last episode, I kind of talked about how um, how do we keep up with AI? And I had made suggestions with like subscribing to an AI newsletter and playing with the latest tools. So
Mhm.
how do you keep up with AI? How do you keep up to date with everything? Are you using everything brand new in your job, or do you experiment with it yourself?
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Absolutely. No harm in subscribing to an AI newsletter for sure. And taking in all the information you can. For me, it's about play. For at least an hour every single day, even if I don't use it in my job that day, I usually always do. But even if I'm not, I play with AI. I experiment with what it can do. I deepen my relationship with it because everybody is going to go about it a little bit differently. I've played with pretty much every tool out there. A lot of people switch to Claude in the last 6 months. Sometimes I go back to chat and we just play together again to see, what's changed, what's new. Gemini, Grok, like all they they should all be played with because I talk about AI like the Game of Thrones, right? Chat GPT was on the Iron Throne for one moment, and now it's Claude, and then tomorrow it could be somebody else. And so I think giving all of the models some time, especially as everything is rapidly developing, is important. But find creators that you trust, that you enjoy learning from. So for me, I would recommend to absolutely anybody one of I would consider them a mentor in AI. His name is Lior Weinstein. We've worked together actually before, but he is kind of at the forefront of the AI space. Right now, he's working with Tony Robbins on AI. And so it just a really, really stand up guy who I know actually does his research and knows what he's talking about and is always at the forefront of everything. So finding somebody that I genuinely know has integrity and that I can trust in what they're coming out with around AI, anything that he puts out regarding it, I'm going to absorb.
Right. And so in this age, as you know, AI is also getting better. Humans also need to get better alongside that. And I've noticed a lot in my own play and my own experimentation, and just things that I've heard where people are struggling to use AI properly.
Mm-hmm.
And you had talked a lot about how you use AI and human connection together and collaborate. Um, and so we want to be asking better questions with AI and help it again with the accuracy of the responses that we want. And so, how do you evaluate prompting and asking questions to uh, AI?
Yeah. So, the biggest piece of advice I've spoken with several companies and done several trainings for companies over the last few months just to get their employees into the basics of utilizing AI in their workday. And when I teach prompting, there's all of these methods and frameworks out there, Rose prompts, for example, or if you want to just get basic with it. But for me, with prompting, what I always teach is talk to it like you would talk to a person. So Lior, that person I mentioned earlier, when he taught me Claude Code, he opened up a application called Super Whisper, which literally is just a voice recording, software, and just said talk. Literally explain, just verbalize, like you're telling me we're having coffee, and you're telling me what you want to build. And I talked for 3 minutes and we took that output and put it into AI and got a significantly better output than if we were just prompting very specifically. And so I think a lot of people make the mistake of lacking context. And even when, psychologically speaking, when we're working with a team, you'll see all sorts of things go wrong when the person at the top gives a direction knowing the end product that they want, and knowing all of this back context because of their position, but they're not giving it to the person they're giving the task to. So, write me a presentation for the board meeting next week. Okay, person team member now writing the presentation is on what? How long? How many slides? What do you mean? And so but people really are prompting AI that way. They just think especially I think when we get into this phase where AI is allowing us to do less and less and less work, or even it encourages that human laziness. And so you see in our prompts that we're getting lazy and we're just write me this, do this. And of course, we don't get a good output. But if you can use the voice function, in my opinion, and just really go in depth as to this is what I want, this is what I want it to look like, this is how I want it to feel, and really like go back and forth with it, I think you tend to get much better outputs. But in terms of when you were saying earlier in your question, humans are going to have to get better. In my opinion, what humans have to get better at is critical thinking. The nice thing is, one of the hardest things for people is ideation, coming up with ideas out of nothing. That's hard for human beings. And so that's kind of like AI's kind of allowed that to be easier. We can say, give me 10 business ideas. And AI will be like, yeah, absolutely, CJ, here's 10 business ideas. But it's now up to us to have that critical thinking to evaluate every output. And that's where I think education has to get a lot better is, asking us to look at these outputs and say, what's actually good? What is good?
Right, you're actually kind of going right down the road that I kind of wanted to lead into is education and how we teach AI. Um, at school, we there's a new AI major that has just opened up, so I'm intending on taking some of those classes as well.
Yeah,
But AI is starting to enter the education space. We've seen how some people are using AI as personal teachers or tutors, and those things are great. But how do we educate the general population of a school, or how do we educate proper use for the general public for AI?
yeah. So I think that's a very difficult and complex question. I don't know that I'm quite qualified to answer it, but I'll give it my best swing. I think in terms of the general public, we absolutely need education around, like I said before, critical thinking, but also discernment. We're going to see a large struggle in people understanding what is real or not. AI can create video footage of anything. It can create, articles that look extremely valid and real. And so us understanding what discernment is, what fact checking is, what research truly looks like, I think is going to be imperative as we go forward in this AI world. And I don't think that schools should take either route of going like all in on AI and foregoing these human skills that we were teaching prior. And I also don't think that schools should try to like head in the sand, like avoid AI, it's not happening. Oh, it's happening, like there is no avoiding it. So I'm glad to hear that your school, Taylor, is embracing it in that way. But I think embracing it looks like teaching us how to engage with it, how to discern what is good, critically think, critically engage with the material it puts out, and how to still know what's real and what is created by humans. Because I think if we use AI to lose entirely what's created by humans, then we're doing something wrong.
Hmm. And so, kind of, learning how to educate people and, um, you know, engaging with AI every day and developing critical thinking skills. Uh, if you have any advice, do you have a piece of advice for people to train those, like a small daily habit or something that people could use to train those critical thinking skills, whether it's with AI or not?
Yeah. I think if it were me, I would every time I'm engaging with a piece of material, once a day, choose one and try to see if you can figure out its validity. And I say that because you can't really open your phone without seeing something that may or may not be valid. And that goes on either side of the political spectrum, on any issue that you want to talk about, any piece of media. You're gonna end up engaging with something that may be AI generated and may or may not be true. So pick one each day and go down a research rabbit hole with yourself. Yeah, you can use AI. There are plenty of AI models that specialize in research if you'd like to. Um, but ask yourself what feels real about this, what feels unreal about this, how do I engage with it, um, I guess properly or healthily. And yeah, I'm a big fan of, if you can't tell by most of my advice with AI, just getting your hands in and doing it. I think as humans, we learn very tactically. We learn by doing things and trying things, and so I think we can only learn discernment by testing it in real time.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I kind of want to speak on some of the habits that I have and just kind of gather your input on things like that. And so I've been using AI to develop my critical thinking skills in the form of Socratic discussion. I give it the context of, hey, don't take my opinion as fact, push back against me. And,
Yes.
this is something that I've spoken on a little bit in the past. And so just kind of, how do you think that AI does in critical thinking versus us? And is AI a good tool for these Socratic discussions and pushing back on our opinions and evaluating our own ideas?
Some models are better than others, but at the end of the day, most software out there that you pay to engage with is designed to keep you engaging with it. That goes for, social media. Obviously, we all know that, but it also goes for AI. So I'm glad that you know how to prompt it. And there's also some settings that you can change and some prompts that you can place within your settings to say, hey, don't agree with everything I say. ChatGPT can often be very guilty of this, of just, being your hype man. And depending on what you're using it for, if you're using it as basically like an encouragement coach, then it's well fit for the job. But and when we're engaging in Socratic thought, we need to stay objective. And I think even though, I will say this, even though AI is meant to keep you engaging with it and it is inclined to always agree with you, I will say it tends to still be better at critical thinking, in my opinion, or critical in terms of objective thinking than even most people. Because it's still operating incredibly logically. Um, at the end of the day, it's an artificial intelligence, so it doesn't really have those, thoughts, feelings, opinions, biases. It's gearing its bias towards encouraging you to keep talking to it. But I still think uh, there is a lot that can be said for using it to help make complex decisions when you're needing a level of objectivity. But I always think that what you're saying of adding that prompt of like, hey, push back on me, ask me questions, don't automatically agree with me, is always a good thing.
Hmm. Yeah. And so it looks like we're running out of time a little bit here. So as we're wrapping up this episode, what is one thing that you want people watching this to pull away from this? What is one piece of advice that you would give as we close this out?
Be curious. I think in an age where we're moving this quickly, where technology is changing more rapidly than it ever has historically, the only thing we can do is the thing that humans were best at from the day that they, first came to be, and that's curiosity. Continue to be curious, look with an open mind, listen to your heart, and keep asking questions.
That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, thank you for meeting with me, Mary. This was very insightful. Hey, stay curious, guys. This has been, the whole point of this podcast. So, I really appreciate you meeting with me and engaging with me in this conversation.